Are you a farmer or butcher ready to master direct-to-consumer marketing and meat success? Then you're in the right place. I'm Jared Hawken, the founder of ChopLocal. Each episode of this podcast features interviews with farmers and butchers who have built successful direct-to-consumer meat businesses, and they're going to share their secrets for success with you. From actionable tips to inspiring stories, this podcast has ingredients you will need to succeed in the meat business. After the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and follow us on social. And check out the rest of our educational resources at ChopLocalUniversity.com. Now, let's turn it over to my business partner, Katie, to get started.
Welcome to another episode of our podcast. I'm Katie Olthoff, the co-founder of ChopLocal and ChopLocal University, and I'm joined here today with another one of our ChopLocal vendors, Kyle Fannin from Lazy Creek Meats in Ohio. Kyle, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. I want to start out, just give everybody a little bit of a history of Lazy Creek and kind of what you sell, what you guys do.
Yeah, so my family started raising cattle in Southern Ohio in the 1940s. Had cattle way before that, but for our intents and purposes, we started here in Ohio in the 1940s, 50s. We're now in our fourth generation. I'm the fourth generation. We're really the first to get into consumer marketing. We've always just been a cow-calf backgrounding operation. Back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, my grandpa got really crazy with it. And by the time I was old enough to understand much of anything, he was in retirement mode. So that's been an adjustment, understanding what grandpa was doing in retirement mode versus what maybe should be done. But it's been a fun learning curve. So now it's my wife, Ashley, and I. Mom and dad help me a lot. And then cousins, Carrie and Mary Montgomery, help out a lot. So we're just cow-calf pairs, put a lot of emphasis on the forage production. That's something I got really passionate about 10, 12 years ago. And we've just really seen the results of that. I struggled on the genetic side because we could never get any feedback from the folks we were selling our kids to. So the genetics, I don't want to say they weren't important to us, but they weren't as important. And then around 2014, 2015, we took a load of calves in on like a Saturday, let's say, and then we took another load in the following Thursday. It was a split sale type deal, and there was just such a sway in the pricing. And I told Dad then, I said, I want to better capture this, So we started focusing on that a little bit. Well, at the same time, and I hope she listens to this, but we were giving fair calves to my niece, both of my nieces. So we would give them fair calves, raise them there at the farm. I mean, they weren't not going to take anything from them, but then we would turn around and buy those calves back for freezer beef to put in the freezers. And at one point I was scratching my head saying, wait a minute, there's got to be a better way to do this. So we kept some calves of our own for our own beef. And I said, if we're going to do two for ourselves, we might do two just to see what happens. We sold those pretty much immediately. And then crazy enough, in 2019, I took a big leap and thought, man, we're gonna get real crazy with this. Almost, I think I can sell more. And then COVID hit, and I'll be honest, I was panicking because I had held back these calves or started on feed, and it's like, what am I going to do with these? I didn't want to get stuck with them. I didn't know what was going to happen, so I just put a post on Facebook. Lazy Creek Meats wasn't even really thought of at that time. I just put a post on my Facebook and said, hey, I've got some beef for sale if anyone wants any. And within 40 minutes, we had to take the post down. And so from that sparked some more energy. So for years, we just did beef shares, quarters, halves, and wholes. And around 22, I'd say, 21, 22, we started more requests for, I guess, box beef, if you will. They didn't want a quarter, couldn't store a quarter, whatever the case may be. So something I wanted to do, we finally got into it, I guess it'd be late 2023. And then we reached out to you guys late 23, and here we are.
Yeah. So when you say boxed beef, you're talking more about like retail cuts where people wanted to buy just a few cuts here and there. Yeah.
Yeah. The biggest request we had for a lot of several months, I should say, was just like $100 box or a $300 box, if you will. They didn't want to invest, be it all that money in order this freezer space. I'm not sure what it was, but it was a lesser quantity, is
Yeah.
what we were hearing,
Yeah.
And we're fortunate enough. Ohio State University has what they call a B509 class that they do in cooperation with Ohio Cattlemen's Association.
Okay.
I took that class in 2018, and then Asha and I went back and took it again in 2022. And literally in that class, it's 2 Saturdays. So you go up the first week, evaluate the animal on hoof, they harvest it, and then the next Saturday you go in and get to actually fabricate the carcass. So I was by no means an expert, but I had somewhat of an idea of what to do, and it's been a learning curve since, but we're getting it figured out.
Yeah. And so along the way, I'm guessing you started to focus a little bit more on genetics throughout that process as well.
We put a huge emphasis on genetics now. I mean, I'm not saying we've got the forage figured out, but I've really shifted my focus from the forage to the genetic side, seeing some big returns on that. I mean, I think if we could have had that data to that point, I think COVID has forced packers and finishing yards to give cow-calf producers that data. But if we'd had that data 10 years ago, I probably would have done it 10 years ago. But now that I can actually see the results, makes all the difference in the world. And I got to give a shameless plug. In 2023, we went to the Feeding Quality Forum with certified Angus beef.
Mm-hmm.
And, I tell folks, I've been around cattle my entire life and went on that trip. And I went out there, and about 24 hours into it, I realized I had to forget everything I thought I knew about cattle and just start over. But through that, I found out that the USDA was doing a pilot program on small packing carcass grading. At the time, they had 5 packers that had signed up to do the remote carcass grading program, and my packer was one of them.
Nice.
So I got to come back from that, and I said, hey, this is something I want to do. So since then, we've been grading all of our carcasses, getting all that data. So for me, and this is more so for me than anyone, I can advertise that I'm selling you a choice or a prime, and I know that that's what it is.
Right. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. I know. So my previous job before ChopLocal was Iowa Cattlemen's Association, and we have
Yeah.
a lot of Angus cattle in Iowa, a lot of great seed stock producers. But we also have some educational programs where we really help producers learn about their genetics. And Iowa, there's a lot of programs that will give that feedback back. So it's nice that now you have this option, and with the remote grading capabilities and the pilot, hopefully that will continue to expand across the United States, because that can make a
Yeah.
big difference.
And I think in terms of retail, helping the small producers, it's going to take that effort along with folks like ChopLocal to get our product to the consumers. That's my opinion. And if I'm not saying anything bad about the large packers or anyone for that matter, but for smaller producers that want to go direct to consumer, I think they really need to look at ChopLocal, look at focusing with a good processor and getting that data and a good product out on the market.
Right. There's so much that goes into it from start to finish, from genetics to the feed regimen
Hmm.
to having the great processor, that can break down the carcass the way that you need it to, and then the marketing. Like, there's so many pieces and parts, and that's something that we feel the same is that you guys need those partners. It's nearly impossible for you to do it all on your own, right? So you need those partners to help
Absolutely.
your business to do it direct to consumer like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in Ohio, similar to Iowa, there's a ton of black cattle there. There's a ton of cattle producers there. How do you differentiate yourself in order to get those customers to buy from you direct to consumer?
We've been extremely fortunate in the power of word of mouth. I'm a firm believer. I think it was at the Feeding Quality Forum, or I don't remember where it was. It was an education seminar that I was at. Someone said that people buy your story as much as they buy your product. And I think for us, getting our story out there, who we are, what we're about, and what we're doing. I don't mean to harp on this, but one thing that we're very much so against is claiming that our product is somehow better or more tender than our neighbor's product. I don't believe in that. We'll never say that. I will tell you how good our product is, and I'll kind of let our product speak for itself, but I'm never going to try to put down another producer, because at the end of the day, Dr. Lyda Garcia, she's a professor of meat sciences at Ohio State University. She says it best. At the end of the day, we need to stop bashing each other. As long as our consumers are eating beef, it's a win for us.
We feel super strongly about that too, because I'm interviewing you today. You're grain finishing, right? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're grain finishing, but one of my other interviews for this part of this season of the podcast is going to be a grass finished producer in the Midwest as well. And different people want a different product, and we're not gonna, like you said, we're not gonna bash. We don't need to
No.
say negative things about other producers or other production methods in order to really let your product shine. And we know that Angus beef is generally highly marbled and provides a good eating experience, and that is something that a lot of people really value. So you and Ashley both work off the farm as well. Are a lot of
Yep.
your customers or your first customers, are those kind of professional relationships that you had? Is that network, does that network help you to get started and spread the word?
My wife is my best salesman.
Okay. Should have had her on the
I'm not gonna try
podcast
to.
then. Yeah.
Uh, I tried. I tried. She doesn't like the face to face. She loves being behind the scenes. She does a lot. The recipes we do, she does all of that. She does all the social media stuff. But man, I'm gonna tell you what. So she works at a hospital, and I should probably know this, but a large percentage of our product goes to that hospital,
Yeah.
just purely through word of mouth. We live in a small town, and again, not to bash anyone, but we have several meat stores in town. So there's county we live in is like around 30,000 in the county, and there's, I'm going to say, five reputable stores, brick and mortar stores, to buy fresh farm fresh beef. So in partnering with Chop Local, we thought we needed to get the product to ship it out. Okay. While that is still true, in partnering with Chop Local, we've developed a huge local market beyond we used to have. And that was it was a welcoming surprise, but it was a surprise that we didn't foresee. So to your point, yes, Ash will go to work. And I mean, it's not like she's going to work saying, hey, buy this. She's not that outgoing. She coworkers or whatever will come to her and say, hey, I seen this post. Tell me more about this. Tell me more about that. And it's, like I said, it's been word of mouth. It's been organic. It's been great. I'll be honest. It's been a lot of fun. And then same with my career as well. I mean, I've had several of my coworkers become customers, and then through that, the word of mouth to their neighbors, their aunts, uncles, whatever the
Yeah.
case may
Yeah,
be.
we see when I'm working with farmers, some of them that work off farm, it's just like you. They have those connections either because of working off farm, or maybe it's because their kids are involved in the activity and they know those other parents. And a lot of times those will be those first customers. And then if the product's great, the word spreads and it just goes from there. The other strategy that we see a lot of people use is farmers markets, because that's a great way to reach your first customers too. But you guys haven't done any farmers markets, correct?
We haven't. And so so I talked to several producers, and I'm a huge advocate of that. Surround yourself with folks that are in the same industry as you and talk to them. You know, we all want to help each other. And there's so many of us that are shipping and selling, what I'm gonna say, retail cuts, if you will, without a mortar, that don't go to farmers markets. We feel that it's a regional thing. We don't have near the farmers market presence that I believe other areas of
Sure.
the country do. Yes, we have a farmers market here in town and in neighboring cities, but we feel that most people don't go there to buy a hamburger or to buy fillets. They want to go there and get their fruits, their vegetables, their honey, their whatever. We've just put all of our focus on advertising, social media, Chop Local, and those channels. And it's worked for us. I'm not saying it's for everyone, but it's
Yeah.
worked well for us.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. So, what does success look like for Lazy Creek Meats? How would you guys define success?
I mean, the biggest thing that puts a smile on my face is getting that text. 90% of the time, it's a text, not a phone call, but it's a text of, this is the best hamburger I've ever had, or this steak is really awesome. And that's success for us because at the end of the day, we're putting so much time and energy into the feed, the genetics, the processing, the everything to deliver that best product.
So that satisfaction from knowing that everything that you've put into it, all the work that you've done has created a product that people are really,
Yes,
really happy about. All right. So when
exactly.
we were chatting before we came on, I said, I want to talk about marketing strategies that have worked for you. You guys do a good job on social media, especially showing the behind the scenes. And like you said, Ashley's weekly recipe, I see that pop up on my feed I think it's Sundays, right? And every week I'm like, I need to try
hmm
this. Like literally, I need to be cooking this. So I love that. I get ideas from her all the time.
So that was actually sparked by a coworker of mine that I work remote. My coworker, there's two of us in the company that do what we do. He and I talk all the time, and Brian's in his early 50s, if you will, and I really look up to him. I mean, he's very well experienced, knows a lot. So I was running this idea by before we actually got for Chop Local and to do the retail cuts. And he said, what would really nice is if you ship those cuts, you throw a little recipe in here and say, hey, here's this piece and here's what we like to use. So that's what really sparked that idea. And Ashley and I talked about it, and she said, well, what if I do a weekly post of a recipe? Because she cooks all the time anyways. I could put these recipes on paper, if you will, put those out and see what that does for us. And it's really interesting. I love Facebook in the sense that it will give you data and
Hmm.
and you can look at those posts and it's so fascinating that although it may not get a lot of reactions, it may not get a lot of like, the visibility to that is huge. So that's why we keep doing it. We actually forgot to do one the week before Christmas because it was the week before Christmas and we were busy and we just forgot. And we actually, people reach out, hey, what happened to our recipe post this week? And it's like, people are paying attention. So yeah, that's worked really well for us.
And I love that they're generally they're kind of creative recipes, but they're also relatively simple. Like I am not like a gourmet cook. I like really simple meals for our family, but like yours always looks so tasty. And I've made a couple of them. I can't remember which ones now, but I need to put that on my rotation just to follow along and make what you made.
So I'm going to tell you, 9 out of every 10 she's cooked. I'll cook every once in a while, but they're hers. But so we have two kids, 7 and 11, that are involved in sports and church and school and everything. So again, we try to do our best to cook 6, 7 days a week. So we try to put meals together like that for like-minded parents that are busy on the go. A lot of them are crock pot meals, stuff that you can, what we call set and forget it, kind of walk away from it and go homework or whatever the case may be. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing a theme here because for this first season of the podcast, at least three of my interviews, we've talked about how providing cooking tips or recipe ideas has really helped in the marketing. And one of them, Anna from Over the Moon, we actually didn't discuss this in her interview, but I ordered some stuff from her over the holidays. She had a gift box and she's here in Iowa. And she had a postcard in the box that had a QR code that linked to their Pinterest so that it had all kinds of recipes on their Pinterest. And I thought, what a great idea. She didn't have to come up with recipes. She's just got a collection there for people to look at. So,
Yeah. So our goal was to get all of those on like a pinned site on Facebook and on our website and
yeah.
everything. But funny story, I've got to share this and she's gonna kill me. But so my cousin's very Carrie that I told you it helps us. He's very
Hmm.
old school. He's 74, 75. And back when we started this, he said, I need business cards. I need business cards. And I'm like, no one uses business cards anymore. So I fought this for a year. And finally he's like, he looked at Ashley and he said, you're gonna make me business cards. Give me business cards made. So she above and beyond makes business cards and she puts a QR code on there that you could scan and it would take you right to the Chop Local or Chop Local
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
store.
Yep.
Oh, oh, it was a wonderful idea. Pay attention when you set QR codes up. We distributed like 300 of these cards. And then finally we had a customer say, hey, the QR code's not working. she had developed a QR code on some app or something that you have to pay a monthly subscription to maintain.
And so if she didn't pay the monthly subscription, then the QR code no longer worked.
Be mindful of the QR codes.
Yeah. We make, so tip for anybody listening, we make our QR codes in Canva, but we use Canva Pro. And as far as I know, they keep working forever. Canva Pro's like a little over $100 a year, I think.
Yeah, I think it's $10 a month, maybe
Something like that.
something like that.
100% worth it to me for marketing because they have beautiful stock images and there's a lot of other things that you can do with Canva Pro, including create a QR code to your website. So,
Well, and Katie, to give you a plug, I've talked to several producers within a 100-mile radius, and the common question is Chop Local worth it? Okay, and I'm not saying this because I'm here, and my answer is emphatically yes. Number one, I didn't know the first thing about shipping meat. Number two, I didn't really know the first thing about how to market ribeyes. I didn't know what Canada was, you know. So there's all of these resources that Chop Locals provided to get us where we want to go. It's more than just a shipping platform. Does that make sense?
yeah.
That's our opinion.
No, right. And that's part of the way that it's developed. When we came up with the idea, it was really we want to connect producers to consumers, and that's still I think, a big part of what we do. But we found along the way that like there's so many little things that you guys can do, and you do a great job of like taking a picture of your boys out there working, or some of your funny posts on Facebook about not putting calves in the back of the SUV, that type of thing, like those are little things that do such a make such a huge difference in connecting with your audience, and we can't do that for you, right? There are some things that like we just can't replicate because we're not there on the farm with you. So we've created these resources to try to help you guys learn how to do it better too without like becoming a full-time marketer. Like these are just little things you can do throughout the day, or little things. I love projects that you can set up once, like a QR code. Set it up once, but it's going to pay off for a really long time because you're going to have that QR code forever, right?
I think a lot of it goes back to understanding your demographics. So we, going back to the Corky post, we started selling beef sticks back in the summers around 4th of July last year. And I had like 300 pounds of these beef sticks. It's a lot of beef sticks, right? And so we started marketing them, and they were gaining a little traction. So we would go to the baseball fields, I'd hand some out, just pass them out, and push them on Facebook, Instagram, whatever we could. And like I said, they were gaining traction, but it was really slow, and we expected it to be slow. So around August, Ashley and I took a day off work. The boys are in the pool in the backyard running around. We're just messing around the house. The boys come over and they said, "Mom, we're hungry." So she had some cube cheese left over from something. She took those beef sticks, cut them up into slices, threw them on a plate, and said, "Here's lunch." Just kind of a real quick. They're playing.
I call that Midwest charcuterie: beef sticks, summer sausage, cheese, and crackers. It's like our very simple Midwest charcuterie board, right?
Yeah. And she took a picture of it, and literally the caption, I mean, there was almost no thought to it, but the caption was, "Our beef sticks make a great Sunday or summer lunch snack," or something to that effect. And Katie, it was like 300% traction on that.
Yeah, all of a sudden everybody was like, "What a good idea," right? No, really, I have picky eaters at our house, and beef sticks, pork sticks also, beef sticks, pork sticks, summer sausage, like those. Now they call it girl dinners. We've been eating girl dinners, my kids have been for a long time. And even more fun if I get out the toothpicks and they can make their little
Exactly.
cheese and yeah. No, I think that that's a really good point is like you guys are that young family with the relatively young, not the preschool age kids, but school age kids. You're both working full-time jobs. You know what this life is like to try to manage it all and feed them all, feed all the kids, feed the family, running back and forth all the time. So like your recipes really relate to that. Showing off those beef sticks really relates to that. And then showing off what life is like for your boys on the farm too, I think is really a strong point in your social media. And like you said, that's the story. Like, we are just like you, but we also raise beef and you can buy it from us, right? So
That's it exactly.
yeah, yeah, I love it. You mentioned one time when we talked, there have been some things that haven't worked so well, some failures for you. Are there any of those that stand out that you want to share?
There's several. The number one thing I want to speak to is understanding the carcass. And this is true whether you're in beef or pork or lamb or whatever. Understanding that carcass and understand the best way to fabricate that to make those meals that we were just speaking to, right?
Do you find that, how do roasts sell for you? Do roasts sell well for you or not really?
They do not. But roast and I have this love-hate relationship because the moment that I don't have a roast in my freezer, in my cooler, I have people asking for roast.
Yeah, then they want them, right? Yeah.
And I have roast right now, and I probably haven't sold one for, well, I think I sold one last month. It's, I almost view it as a niche market. They don't move very fast. And I'm not, at least as far as my customers are concerned, I put a lot of effort into understanding, do folks want a, sirloin tip roast? Do they want the chuck roast? Do they want the arm roast, shoulder? Well, what, maybe I'm getting the wrong cut. And I haven't found that it matters. It's just, I think if folks are in the mood for it, they're in the mood for it. Having said that, I do want to share, I was talking to my processor, goes back to having that relationship with your processor. And I said, what can I do here so that I don't have all these roast? So we took that chuck and pulled the Delco steaks or chuck eye steaks, right? So that's ribs 1 through 6. We market those as a cowboy steak. And that's our number 3 selling product right now. So if I can sell that chuck eye or cowboy steak or Delmonico or whatever you want to call it versus sitting on those chucks, that's what I'm going to do 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah. And that's something that does take some time to learn and knowing your demographic. And it's a hard one for us as farmers because like how many of us grew up with a Sunday roast and we know what to do with a roast, right? But for some reason they don't sell very well online. They don't sell as well direct to consumer. So that's a really smart strategy to get something else cut. Or what I thought you were going to say is get those beef sticks made out of them. Have them ground and have them put into those value added products.
That's going to be my next point. It took me a while to get to find a good value added co-packer to work with on those beef sticks. And if you have one in your area, our co-packer's 75-ish miles away. It's not a huge deal. As producers, I think if you're going to be in this game, you've got to do something besides sell ribeyes, New York strips, and hamburger, right? There's more value in those cuts. So we're doing an all beef hot dog. Our processor will pull that trim back for us and we can put it in there. I can't remember if it was you or Sydney. We talked several months back, and my processor, and nothing against them, but their standard is to take that round primal and cut round steaks. And I'm all but giving round steaks away. Well, flash forward, now we're putting that into hot dogs. I just talked to our co-pack this morning. We're going to be doing roast beef, bologna, some other stuff with those round primals, shoulder clods, just to try to get some more value out of that besides a hamburger. Hamburger sells well. I'm not nothing against it, but if we can sell, an 8-pack of hot dogs with the hamburger patties, then it's a win.
Yeah, definitely. And that ties right into when I think about who wants hot dogs. It's those families with kids again, right? It's those easy meals, but you can feel a lot better about knowing that these hot dogs are all coming from your beef.
I wish I could sit here and tell you that I did this on purpose, but I didn't. So the grocers, the co-packer that I work with out of Columbus, wonderful folks. I knew this going into it. They're a very like Whole Foods type co-packer. So I bring my beef sticks back and the hot dogs back and give them to some friends of ours at the baseball fields. He immediately looks at the ingredients. There's no seed oils. There's no artificial dyes. So they found a new market that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
We have a lot of these dads that are athletes that are paying attention to what they're eating, that are buying the beef sticks and hot dogs because they're all natural.
Ah, yeah. That's another tangent we could go off on.
Listen, Ashley and I both have Crohn's disease, and it's something we've had for years. So we've always tried to eat all natural as we could, but we've never pushed anyone. It was just something we did naturally, organically. That's how we feed our cattle. We've in the last 18 months, we've really started marketing that, and there's a huge potential there in that market segment if that's truly what you're raising and if that's truly what you're selling. I think it's something everyone should look into.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like what you said about like you're not trying to necessarily convince people that they should eat that way, but if they've decided that that's how they want to eat, you have a product that you can offer them. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I know it's been really interesting. We're about the same age, I think, you and I, Kyle, and right in our age range, I see men seems like men are getting into diet, not dieting, but nutrition and getting enough protein and that type of thing. And that goes right along with this. Would you say most of your customers are men or women?
So that's something we actually do track. So 58% of our Facebook followers are men. The average age is, I think, 40, it's either 43 or 46. I can't recall.
Okay.
85% of our customers are women.
But they're the people actually making the purchases.
Bingo. So that's what we're trying to understand. So who are we selling to? Are we selling to the dads and we convincing the dads and then moms are buying? Or are the moms just kind of in the background on Facebook, if you will?
I can tell you on Chop Local, it's closer to a 50-50 split, men versus women. So if that helps you know, maybe, I mean, I'm thinking out loud here, but maybe you've got these men that are following, but for some reason they're not the ones making the purchases. I don't know if there's something that you can do there to really push them to make those purchases more because I think there is potential there.
I think there is. And part of me, the farmer in me, is saying
Mhm.
how many of our Facebook followers are following us not because they don't want to buy our product, but following just to see what we're doing on the farm.
Yeah, and especially if they're interacting with you or liking your posts and stuff, that helps you get more reach too. I know. Yep, definitely. I mean, it's just like me. I follow you. I raise my own beef. I'm not ordering anything from you anytime soon,
Bingo, exactly.
but I try to interact. Like I said, when I see Ashley's recipes, when they pop up, I try to comment on them as much as possible, just because that helps you guys get more reach and it helps get more eyes on it. And that's that one little thing that I can do when I'm scrolling through my phone, then I'm happy to do it.
And we
So,
appreciate it.
yeah. Well, we appreciate working with you. And I know Sydney, I keep talking about Sydney on this podcast. We got to get her on here. But Sydney actually got to stop by the farm the other day on her way from her in law's place in Virginia back to Iowa. She stopped by the farm and said it was really great to meet you in person as well.
Yeah, it was a pleasant surprise. She texted and she said, "Hey, we drive right through Jackson on the way to our in-laws," and I said, "Yeah, stop by." So I did have to forewarn her. I said, "Listen, welcome to Ohio and welcome to the mud." It was possibly the worst day she could have come. I mean, the mud around here is horrific. But yeah, it was great to meet Sydney. It's always nice to put an actual face to it and talk to it. And then, of course, met her husband, had some great conversations with him. And then, like I said, Ashley, as much as she is behind the scenes, at least now, whenever I say, "Hey, I'm emailing Kate or Sydney," she at least,
She at least knows who you're talking about, right? It's funny because we feel like we get to know you guys so much, but then the chance for us to meet all of our vendors in person is very rare. We're hoping
well,
this next year we can get out and travel to more conferences and things like that and be able to meet people that way too. But I really appreciate you taking some time to chat with us and sharing what's worked for you guys. If anybody wants to follow Kyle on Facebook just to see what he's up to, see what kinds of posts are working for him and see those recipes, it's Lazy Creek Meats on Facebook. Do you guys use Instagram? I can't remember.
we do. And as much as I think I put time and effort into it, I mean, I think I'm doing it right. We haven't got much traction on
Yeah.
Instagram.
We've talked a lot internally on our team about how it's just there's no one size fits all, right? And some people will say that Instagram is where it's at for them. That's where they make all their sales. And some say Facebook. And then we've got some people that are using TikTok. And, I think that's what we just keep coming back to is that it's not one size fits all. A lot of it has to do with what you like and what you use most naturally too.
A real quick shameless plug. If other producers aren't using the Meta Business app, I highly recommend them using that. That is huge for our markets and marketing, I guess I should say, in general.
Yeah, with the Meta Business app, you can schedule out your posts. So that's another thing that just makes things so much easier. So you're not sitting there on a Sunday afternoon posting this. Maybe you are, but you wouldn't have to be if you didn't want to.
Bingo.
You could schedule it another time.
Get ready for because I posted something, I don't even remember what it was, and it was something to the effect of, today we were doing this, this, and this. And I have a wonderful working relationship with my boss at work. And he called me up and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm working on this project." He goes, "That's not what your Facebook says."
Your Facebook says you were out. Oh, right.
And I said, "Those are scheduled weeks out." I said, "Man, don't pay no attention to that."
Right. Yeah. But that does make it really easy. If you take several photos on one day, you can still spread them out
Bingo.
a little bit. Yeah. Or I
Yep.
really like it for those things that, like we said, the recipes. You could sit down and do 4 to 6 weeks worth of recipes all at once and then get them scheduled with me.
Bingo.
Yep.
Yes.
It's a smart strategy. So, all right. Well,
Yep.
thank you again, Kyle. I've enjoyed talking to you. Hopefully someday we'll get to meet in person.
That's great. Sounds great. Thank you, Katie.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Meat Success. We hope this episode gave you fresh insights and inspiration to beef up your meat marketing. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, follow us on social, and share with your fellow farmers and butchers. Have questions or ideas for future podcasts? Reach out to ChopLocalUniversity.com. Until next time, remember, there's more than one recipe for meat success.